He walked into the dimly lit steakhouse just as the night crowd was settling in, the air thick with the scent of seared meat, garlic butter, and murmured conversations. The host glanced at him, then handed him a menu and directed him to a secluded booth in the corner. He sat, folded his hands in his lap, and studied the menu as though it were a puzzle. This was no ordinary dinner for him. His name was Marcus Sinclair, though only a handful in the world would ever know it. Tonight he was undercover, blending in among plain folk, testing something he thought he knew but suspected he didn't. He was a millionaire, one of the richest in his circle back home, but his wealth had grown distant from the world of everyday people. He wanted to remind himself of something fundamental, what it meant to be human in all its messy, fragile glory. When the waitress came, she wore a warm smile. Her apron bore the name Ellie. She introduced herself matter-of-factly, asked what he'd like, and took his order. A medium-rare ribeye with mashed potatoes and steamed asparagus. She moved away, slipping through tables and trolleys. Marcus watched her go, feeling an unexpected flutter in his chest. Not loneliness exactly, but a yearning for real connection. He glanced around. Couples leaned close, old friends laughed, families shared slices of life. Here at the edges, a man nursing a glass of wine sat alone. A birthday party in the corner erupted in cheers. Yet there he was with his menu, contemplative, removed. It felt strange, like being both guest and observer at a play. When Ellie returned with water, she said, "You look pensive. Long day?" She gave him a moment before she smiled gently. "Don't worry, you don't have to answer that." He nodded and she retreated. He stared at his glass, watching ripples from her footsteps. It was late, well past the prime dining hour. Ellie approached, refilling the water and clearing a stray olive from the table. As she did, she slipped a folded note just beneath his knife. He didn't notice until she walked away. His heart stuttered. He looked around, nobody staring. He unfolded the small piece of paper. It read, "You matter more than your doubts. Keep trying." He froze. For a beat, the clamor of the restaurant receded. His pulse rang loud in his ears. He didn't know what to make of it. Did she see through him? Was this some sentimental flourish for a stranger? But he did feel it, her faith delicate but insistent. The steak came. He tried to eat, but his appetite deserted him. Instead, he folded the note and stared into the meat, thinking of his life. The company sold, the deals closed, the influence accrued. All that meant something, he once believed. But here, in this steakhouse under soft overhead lights, a waitress with no agenda but service had pierced the wall he'd built around himself. After the meal, he asked for the check. Ellie came back, quietly placing it before him. He leaned forward. "Ellie," he said, watching her pause. "Why, that note?" She looked at him, startled but steady. She said, "Sometimes people come in looking for more than food. They come wounded. I write little notes, not always. I keep scraps of paper in my apron. If I see someone who looks like they're carrying the weight of the world, I write." No strings attached, he blinked.
"How many have you given out?"
She shrugged. "I lost count." Her eyes flicked to his check folder, then away. "I don't know, but every once in a while I see something in someone, hurt, doubt, fear, and I tell them, 'You are enough.'" He closed his eyes. He thought of his mother, the days she told him he could be anything. He thought of the deals that went wrong, the losses that crushed him, the nights he stared at the ceiling and wondered whether his success meant anything after all. She laid a hand on the folder. "You okay?" He opened his eyes. "I am now." In that instant, a storm of realization tore through him that money, influence, fame, they were tools, not ends. That the greatest value lay in small moments, human to human, heart to heart. A rich man could write $1 million check, but a simple note from a stranger could crack open something deeper. He slipped behind his wallet, pulled out his card not to pay for extra tip, but to balance something internal. He tucked the note into his pocket, then stood up. "Ellie, may I ask something more?" She nodded. "Would it trouble you if tomorrow I came back, just as Marcus, ordinary, just to talk again? Could I pay you for your time?" She blinked. "You're already paying me." "In your presence." He laughed softly, touched in a way he had not been in years. The next day he returned, not in a sleek suit, but in a simple jacket, jeans, and a face ready for conversation. He entered the steakhouse at 5:30 p.m., early. The hostess recognized him, guided him to Ellie's usual section. She arrived, wiping her hands, and froze. Marcus stood and offered his hand. "Hi, thank you for yesterday." She blinked, then smiled. He gestured to the empty table. "May I sit?" She hesitated, then nodded. She slid into a chair opposite him. The restaurant hummed around them. He watched her close up, the flecks of tiredness under her eyes, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the gentle curve of her lips when she smiled. He said, "I'm not going to ask you to treat me differently. I just want to hear your story if you're willing." She looked away for a moment, then very quietly she spoke. She told him she worked nights to support her younger brother's college fund, that her mother had gotten sick 2 years ago, that she dreamed of doing something writing, but couldn't risk the insecurity. She said she wrote the notes because when she saw someone slipping in hope, dignity, self-worth, she couldn't just walk by. He listened. He asked questions. He didn't interrupt. Then he said, "Ellie, I want to help you." She looked up. "I don't want charity," she whispered. He leaned forward. "Not charity, partnership. If you ever decide to pursue writing, stories, notes, cards, whatever, let me be the one who says yes. Let me back you. As someone who once lost his own way, I want your gift to spread, and I want to give you the space to grow." She shook her head, almost tearful. "I don't deserve that." He placed his hand over hers. "You deserve it more than you know." In that instant, something fragile and human surrendered between them. A bridge built from a note, trust, and mutual respect. Months passed. In quiet ways, the change unfolded. Ellie wrote small booklets of encouraging notes. Marcus connected her with a local nonprofit, helped her set up a platform where people could request uplifting messages. He invested not in buying her life, but in giving her agency. He became the anonymous benefactor behind a program called Notes for the Weary. She hired a few servers to help, gave training, allowed folks in hospitals to request messages, allowed people in shelters to have simple reminders tacked to their doors. Marcus saw his wealth as seed, not castle. One evening, he re-entered the original steakhouse, now refurbished. The staff greeted him by name. Ellie emerged, radiant in the glow of the dining room. She handed him a book. Notes for the Weary. Real stories, real love. Inside she wrote, "To Marcus, because you believed when I doubted. Because one note changed your heart and you changed my life. Keep leading with kindness." Tears blurred his eyes. Around the restaurant, patrons carried the cards she'd begun distributing. Simple words, a reminder that someone saw you, someone cared. He understood then. Wealth without purpose is hollow. Power without compassion is dangerous. But kindness, real intentional kindness, could redraw the map of a life.
He asked her, "How many people have you touched now?"
She smiled. "Thousands, I think," he said. "Then we have to reach millions." Years later, Notes for the Weary became a movement. In communities across the country, people left messages in coffee shops, libraries, schools. People carried scraps of paper and pens offering hope in unexpected places. Marcus traveled, but always returned to that corner booth in the steakhouse where his journey had begun. Ellie published a collection of stories, of strangers, of broken hearts mended, of hope resurrected. One night, a woman at a table near his left sobbed quietly. A note slipped out. "You are seen." He watched as she read it, clutched it to her chest, and exhaled. A sigh of release or surrender, he couldn't tell. But change had come to her. He turned to Ellie. She whispered, "This is why we started." He nodded. "And we'll carry on." And so they did. The world often measures worth by bank accounts, by fame, by power. But the quiet truth is, one human reaching into another can heal more than money ever could. A note, a kind word, a touch, a chance. These are the miracles we underestimate. In the end, hope doesn't come with a price tag. Kindness is universal, timeless, free. Let us all be occasional millionaires of the heart, investing in compassion, paying it forward, and believing in the overlooked, the broken, the silent. Because sometimes one small note is enough to stop someone cold and nudge them back to life.